Let's talk about a story that completely redefines what a side hustle can be. It's not just about extra cash. It's about passion, solving a problem, and building something truly incredible from the ground up.
It all kicks off with this number, $148,000. That's the yearly revenue from a business someone is running in their spare time. Now, a number like that, it just makes you lean in and ask, right, what kind of side gig pulls in that kind of money? You're probably thinking, what, tech, maybe real estate, some high-level consulting? Well, the answer is probably the last thing you'd expect.
Yeah, you heard that right, spoken word poetry. This is a story about how a creative passion turned into a six-figure powerhouse. It's a masterclass not just in art, but in incredible business sense. And this is the guy who made it happen, Rashawn Brown. By day, he's a product manager at ESPN, but by night, he's the mind behind a booming poetry showcase called Poetry Me Please. This is how he built an empire from a feeling.
So where does a business like this even begin? Well, it didn't start with a spreadsheet or a business plan. It started with a personal problem, a single moment of frustration that lit a fire.
Let's rewind to January 2020. Rashawn gets on stage for his very first open mic night in New York. And the feeling he gets from performing, from sharing his words, he said it felt like therapy. A really powerful personal connection. But then, he had to pay $20 just to perform, and that just didn't feel right. I mean, think about it. He was the one doing the work, creating the art, bringing his friends to fill the seats. Why on earth should the artist pay? That small injustice, that was the spark.
And right there, his vision started to take shape. He looked at the old model, where artists literally pay to share their art, and he decided to flip it completely on its head. With his idea, Poetry Me Please, not only would artists perform for free, he'd go one step further. He'd give them professional photos and videos to help build their own brands. He wasn't just fixing his problem, he was creating a launchpad for a whole community.
Now, having a great idea is one thing, but turning it into a real, breathing, profitable business, that's a whole different ballgame. This is about the grind, the steps he took to build his stage piece by piece.
He started small, but he started smart. First, he just built an audience by posting his own stuff on YouTube. Then, he dipped his toes in the water, hosting small events in local bars, barely making any money. But the real game changer? He elevated the whole experience, moving to a fancy two-story restaurant, a place where people could dress up, have a nice meal, make a whole night of it. It went from just another open mic to a premium event, which meant he could charge more for tickets and attract a completely different crowd.
And you know what? That move paid off big time. In October of 2021, he walked away from one of those events with $1,000 in his pocket. Profit. That was it. That was the proof of concept. The moment he knew this wasn't just a passion project, it was a viable business.
And after that, the momentum just kept building. It's incredible when you look at it. From that first spark in 2020, to proving the model in 2021, to hitting a massive milestone just a year later when he opened for the world-famous poet Rupi Kaur. That success set him up for the biggest bet of his entire life in the fall of 2023.
As his events got bigger, so did his following online. And he was smart about it. He used that growing social media community to catch the eye of some major players. We're talking Soho House, City Winery, Eventbrite, even Microsoft. By showing them he had a dedicated, passionate audience, he proved his platform's value. These partnerships weren't just about money. They were stamps of approval that helped him grow even faster. In every great story of entrepreneurship, there's that one moment, that huge, terrifying leap of faith. For Rashawn Brown, that moment was deciding to book one of the most legendary stages on the planet. So remember, right after opening for Rupi Kaur, he was so amped up, he just stood on an empty street and yelled out his dream, to sell out the Apollo. Well, less than a year later, that wasn't just some wild dream anymore. It was a real, terrifying, and absolutely thrilling possibility.
But dreams that big, they come with a serious price tag. $50,000. That's what it cost to rent out the Apollo for one night. It was a colossal risk for a side hustle, and it meant putting down a $10,000 deposit straight from his own savings.
So the big question, did he pull it off? Oh, you better believe it. He promoted it like crazy, and that community he had spent years building, they showed up for him. 1,400 people bought tickets. They completely covered the cost and turned his biggest risk into his most legendary night.
A sold-out show at the Apollo is an incredible high, but the climb to get there, well, that's a different story. Behind all this success and the big numbers is a story of intense personal sacrifice, the real cost of chasing a dream this hard.
I mean, just look at these numbers. On top of a demanding full-time job at ESPN, Rashawn was putting in anywhere from 20 to a staggering 80 additional hours a week on Poetry Me Please. And how much did he pay himself? Zero. Every single penny of profit went right back into the business to pay his team and fuel its growth.
And that kind of grind, it takes a toll. In February of 2024, right after having knee surgery, he pushed himself to perform at an event at the White House. He was running on fumes, in serious pain, and he ended that night in a Washington, D.C. emergency room. It was his body's way of saying, enough.
But that night in the ER, it wasn't a failure. Not at all. It was a lesson. A really painful but really necessary lesson that forced him to completely rethink what it means to hustle.
And this is the conclusion he came to. It's so powerful. He said, I've learned either you can take a rest or your body's going to make you take a rest. That's a huge piece of wisdom for any entrepreneur. For anyone out there pushing your limits, your body always keeps score.
But his story doesn't just end with a lesson on burnout. It comes full circle in the most amazing way. Check this out. In December of 2022, he was the opening act for Rupi Kaur. Fast forward less than 3 years, and at his own showcase, Rupi Kaur was his special guest performer. He went from being the opener to the main event.
Okay, so what can we all take away from Rashawn's wild ride? Let's boil this incredible story down into a few clear, actionable ideas you can think about for your own projects and ambitions.
First, let's get real about motivation. Yeah, that $148,000 revenue number is a great headline. But after he paid his team and covered all the expenses, the actual profit was just $500, which he put right back into the business. It just goes to show you the real drivers here weren't financial. They were creative freedom, building a community, and lifting up other artists.
So what are the big lessons here? 1. Find a problem that you feel in your bones, that little thing that just doesn't seem fair. 2. Start small, prove your idea works, and pour everything back in to grow. 3. Use partnerships to build your credibility and get bigger, faster. And maybe the most important one, 4. Treat rest like a critical business strategy, not a luxury. And that leaves us with one final thought for you. Rashawn Brown built a cultural movement out of a $20 fee that felt wrong. So take a look around. What's the small injustice in your world, in your passion, that just doesn't sit right with you? Because that might just be your Apollo. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like the video and subscribe to our channel for more real business success stories.